Silicon Valley does not build tools. It builds addictions with user interfaces. Every swipe, ding, badge, streak, and autoplay is engineered around one brutal question: how do we keep you here 5 seconds longer? You think you are opening an app. In reality, the app is opening your nervous system. Your phone is not a neutral device. It is a behavioral extraction machine. And the most disturbing part is not that it manipulates you. It is that it has trained you to experience manipulation as entertainment. TikTok. TikTok is not an entertainment app. It is a slot machine disguised as leisure, small enough to live in your pocket and powerful enough to erase an evening without leaving evidence. Every swipe is a pull of the lever. Every new clip is a gamble. The genius of the platform is not the content itself. It is the uncertainty. You never know whether the next video will be hilarious, seductive, shocking, stupid, or weirdly perfect for the mood you are in. That unpredictability is the trap. It keeps your brain chasing a reward that might be one swipe away, then another, then another. That is how the theft happens. Not all at once, not dramatically. TikTok does not kick your door down and steal your evening. It persuades you to hand it over in tiny, forgettable pieces. 10 minutes becomes 40, 40 becomes 2 hours. Your body stays still, but your attention is dragged through an endless conveyor belt of noise, engineered to feel effortless. You are not choosing anymore. You are being carried. Then the spell breaks. The screen goes dark, the room comes back. You check the time and feel that quiet wave of disgust rising in your chest. Nothing tangible was built, nothing meaningful was remembered. You did not rest. You did not think. You did not even enjoy enough of it to justify what it took. It does not just waste your time. It teaches you to offer it up willingly, then hands you the emptiness and lets you call it your choice. Instagram. If TikTok steals your time, Instagram steals something harder to recover: your self-worth. It does not need to insult you directly. It just surrounds you with a polished hallucination of beauty, wealth, youth, romance, discipline, success, and effortless happiness until your own life starts to feel defective by comparison. That is the cruelty of the platform. It does not merely show you other people. It shows you edited evidence that you are falling behind. You open the app for a second and immediately step into a synthetic world with no acne, no debt, no boredom, no failed relationships, no wasted afternoons, no insecure mornings, no ordinary bodies under ordinary lighting. Everything is toned, filtered, curated, corrected, staged. And because your brain is not stupid but primal, it reacts before your rational mind has time to intervene. You do not just look. You measure. You rank. You compare. You lose. That is why Instagram leaves such a strange emotional residue. You can enter it feeling fine and leave it feeling quietly inadequate without even knowing which image poisoned you. The app does not have to tell you that your body is wrong, your face is average, your room is ugly, your relationship is boring, or your life is small. It just floods your screen with enough artificial perfection that your mind begins whispering it to itself. Instagram does not raise your standards. It trains you to look at your own life and experience it as failure. Snapchat. Snapchat did something especially ugly. It turned friendship into maintenance. A relationship that should live through shared moments, real conversation, and genuine affection gets reduced to a tiny flame icon and a number that must not be allowed to die. That is how the platform traps you. It does not ask whether you miss the person. It only asks whether you fed the streak today. At first it feels harmless, almost cute, a small game, a daily ritual. But once the number climbs high enough, the psychology rots. You are no longer sending a photo because you have something to say. You are sending it because too much time has already been invested to let the number collapse. The interaction stops being human and starts becoming administrative. A blurry ceiling, a black screen, a meaningless snap sent from pure obligation still counts. That should tell you everything. What Snapchat exploits is not intimacy, but panic. It manufactures the fear that if the streak disappears, something valuable has been lost, even when the actual relationship underneath it has already gone hollow. So you keep feeding the metric long after the connection has weakened, because preserving the number feels easier than admitting the bond itself is fading. It does not preserve closeness. It keeps the number alive long after the relationship underneath it has already started to die. X, formerly Twitter. X, formerly Twitter, does not want your attention at peace. Peace is passive. Peace does not spread. Peace does not keep you typing with your pulse in your throat. X wants you angry, alert, offended, and ready to fight because outrage is the most profitable emotion on the platform. The algorithm does not need you to agree with what you see, it only needs you to react hard enough to stay. That is why the feed feels less like information and more like provocation. You are scrolling, half bored, half distracted, and suddenly a post appears that feels engineered to insult your values, your intelligence, your politics, your identity, or your basic sense of decency. Your body reacts before your mind has time to be civilized. Your chest tightens, your jaw hardens, your fingers move. You type not because you have something wise to add, but because you have been pushed into a state of combat. And that is the real humiliation of X. It makes you feel like a defender of truth when you are often just unpaid labor, generating engagement through your own agitation. The platform does not care whether you are right, it cares that you are activated. Every furious reply, every doomscroll spiral, every useless argument with a stranger becomes another burst of fuel for a machine that feeds on hostility. You think you are using X to speak. More often, X is auctioning off your anger in real time. Short-form video. Short-form video is not dangerous only because it wastes time. It is dangerous because it retrains your brain to resent anything that unfolds slowly. A conversation becomes too long. A book becomes too heavy. A film becomes too quiet. A task becomes unbearable the moment it stops delivering stimulation every few seconds. That is the deeper damage. Short-form video does not just occupy your attention, it lowers your tolerance for depth. Its real trick is the removal of friction. Older forms of media had natural stopping points. A chapter ended, a song finished, a scene faded out. You had a second to decide whether you wanted more. Short-form video strips away that second. One clip ends and the next one floods in before your mind can reassert itself. You are not being entertained in discrete units anymore. You are being fed through a continuous pipe. After enough repetition, the effect spills into the rest of life. Silence starts to feel hostile. Waiting feels intolerable. Boredom feels like an emergency. You reach for stimulation faster, think less deeply, and abandon difficult things sooner because your brain has grown accustomed to reward arriving instantly, brightly, and without resistance. It does not just eat hours. It weakens the mental muscles required to stay with anything that might actually matter. Reddit. Reddit loves to pretend it is a sanctuary for independent thought. In reality, it is one of the most efficient conformity machines on the internet. The platform gives you just enough freedom to speak, then surrounds that freedom with a reward system brutal enough to train you out of using it honestly. You arrive thinking you are entering discussion. What you are often entering is a behavioral filter disguised as community. The mechanism is simple and cruel. You post an opinion that is slightly out of line with the mood of the subreddit. The downvotes begin. Your comment sinks. Your words are buried. The visible rejection hits harder than people like to admit because the brain does not treat public disapproval as something abstract. It feels social. It feels tribal. It feels like being shoved out of the circle in front of everyone watching. So you learn, not necessarily because you changed your mind, but because you do not want the punishment again. You soften your language. You copy the local tone. You repeat the approved joke, the approved ideology, the approved outrage. Eventually, the upvotes arrive, and with them comes that cheap little rush of belonging. Reddit does not need to censor you directly. It simply teaches you that honesty is expensive and conformity is rewarded. After enough repetition, you stop speaking to be understood. You start editing yourself to be rewarded. Pinterest. Pinterest is not a vision board. It is a beautifully organized warehouse for unrealized intentions. The platform sells inspiration, but what it often delivers is a chemically satisfying substitute for action. That is what makes it dangerous in such a quiet way. It does not distract you by looking useless. It distracts you while making you feel productive. You open it to plan a better life. A cleaner apartment, a stronger body, a softer aesthetic, a new routine, a dream kitchen, a smarter wardrobe. The images arrive already perfected, already color-balanced, already complete. Then you save 1, then 10, then 50. And with every pin, your brain receives a tiny fraudulent sense of progress, as if collecting the finished versions of other people's lives moved you any closer to building your own. But nothing in your room changes. Nothing in your habits changes. Nothing in your body, discipline, finances, or unfinished projects changes. The only thing that grows is the archive of who you keep fantasizing about becoming. It turns procrastination into an aesthetic, then sells it back to you as self-improvement. LinkedIn. LinkedIn is not a professional network. It is a theater of status anxiety, where burnout gets dressed up as ambition and insecurity learns how to speak in corporate language. The platform does not simply let you present your career. It pressures you to turn your entire identity into a public performance of usefulness, momentum, and upward motion. On LinkedIn, existing is not enough. You must appear to be advancing. That is why the feed feels so spiritually exhausting. Promotion posts, humbled and honored announcements, performative gratitude, leadership lessons from people who are really just pitching themselves with a cleaner font. Everywhere you look, someone is winning, scaling, optimizing, building, pivoting, hiring, launching, grinding. The message is relentless. If you are not visibly progressing, you are quietly falling behind. So people adapt. They inflate small milestones into personal revolutions. They package ordinary work into mythology. They learn how to write about exhaustion as resilience, overwork as discipline, and self-erasure as commitment. The result is a platform where professional image starts devouring the human being behind it. You stop asking whether your life is sustainable, meaningful, or even tolerable. You ask whether it looks impressive enough. LinkedIn does not just make you compare careers. It teaches you to measure your worth by how convincingly you can market your own depletion. None of these platforms destroy you in exactly the same way. One empties your time. One corrodes your self-worth. One turns intimacy into obligation. One monetizes your anger. One teaches you to sort human beings like products. One glamorizes exhaustion. One rewards obedience. One sells you the feeling of progress without the pain of effort. One erodes your ability to stay with anything deep. One trains your body to answer a machine before it answers real life. Different methods, same objective, make you easier to control. That is why the real problem is bigger than any single app. The problem is that an entire digital environment has been built around studying your weaknesses, then feeding them back to you in a form so normalized you call it fun, networking, inspiration, or staying connected. And the most uncomfortable truth is that you already know this. You know it steals from you. You know it leaves you emptier than it found you. You know it is shaping the way you think, feel, compare, desire, and react. And still, tomorrow, your hand will probably reach for it again. That is how complete the trap is. It does not need your permission anymore, only your reflex.